Deadly Tarantula Girl coming to you from my arachnarium. Welcome. I am right in the epicenter of the 2021 Texas blizzard situation, so my heart's going out to everyone out there that is losing power, gas, has frozen pipes, you have animals dying. I'm so sorry. We have everything right now. So we decided to take advantage and film a video, and so let's get started.
1, 2, 3, I don't know who else to be. 24/7, all I do is procrastinate, my lesson.
For many years, I've been a strong proponent of handling your animals publicly, because when I began YouTube almost 10 years ago, my primary goal was to educate and help people overcome this irrational fear they have of dangerous, frightening, scary spiders and reptiles. Well, unfortunately, the tides have turned to some degree, and now I feel like we're battling a different danger. Luckily, the hobby is growing, which in my opinion is excellent for conservation, because the more people that are keeping in captivity, keeping these beautiful, amazing animals, the better it is for their populations, because there are more people caring about them, learning about them, taking care of them, and ultimately being vested in their survivability in the wild and in captivity. And according to Dave and Tracy Barker's book, The Invisible Ark, it's a good one, I'll link it below. Ultimately, humans have not been the best stewards of our planet, and many species may not have a home in the wild at some point. Essentially, captive populations may be the only species that don't go extinct. Now, for some species, that might be in a year or two. For some, that might be a decade or two down the line. But ultimately, if you become a tarantula keeper and hobbyist, you're helping animals stay alive, even if it's only on the scale of a few animals at a time, which to me is big. So now we're on another tide of the hobby growing and people spreading dangerous misinformation that is getting out into the media. And the media is already very anti-exotic animal, as you guys know, in the US and in other countries and in multiple states. There are already lots of bans controlling the specific species that people can keep in a private collection. And I feel like there's been a growing trend of people doing things that are ultimately irresponsible. Some of them are what I would consider perfectly reasonable or sensible in a private setting. Like, you have your big red-knee tarantula that you've raised up from a spiderling, and sometimes she crawls up on your hand, and that's great. But doing it on camera might misrepresent that animal or the keeping of that animal to someone who does not quite know what they're looking at. And then also we have the ridiculous people who are irresponsibly free-handling venomous snakes, or putting tarantulas in their cleavage or in their mouths, or having more potent species crawling on their heads. Why? I do not know, other than for silly notoriety. But I feel like ultimately it's bad for the hobby, because I feel like it's giving the media more fuel. There have been people, I've stated for years, that first of all, tarantulas are not poisonous, as everyone who knows anything knows. They are venomous. I've compared their venom to a bee sting. Now, there are a number of different tarantulas species, and a number of different bee species for that matter, all with varying potency of venom. I compared that to a bee sting so people could understand that you could potentially be envenomated by one of these animals, and that the likelihood of it killing you was insignificant. I will say that. Is it possible? Yes, under very extenuating circumstances. For example, a very severe allergic reaction, like a bee. Or maybe if you're already seriously immunocompromised. There have been no documented cases that I know of and that researchers that I've referred to know of someone dying from a tarantula bite. Now, as far as I have said that they are not medically significant, which means that their venom has some type of medicinal value to humans. There has been research over the last 20 years, none that has had any significant findings that I'm aware of, but they are studying tarantula venom to try to help with a number of things. One is for coating pills for faster absorption into the body. Interesting. As well as in the treatment of heart arrhythmia and Parkinson's. However, from what I have read, and the researcher specifically that I referred to most recently to double confirm my information, tarantula venom is not being used for any of those things at this time. So again, tarantula venom is not medically significant to humans. Tarantula venom is not fatal to humans. However, I'm officially going to take the stance of no longer handling tarantulas in a public setting because of the direction that the laws are heading, regulating us keeping invertebrates and reptiles. And now, I believe that in a private setting, your animal in your own home, you should have the right to handle your animals however you see fit, as long as it's responsible and safe. However, ultimately you have a much greater responsibility if you come onto a public platform like social media, like YouTube. What you do in that public setting, you're not only representing that species of animal or that type of animal in general, because viewers a lot of times will lump even spiders all into one group, but you're representing all of us as keepers. So I would just caution everyone to please behave sensibly. I realize that it might be tempting for a lot of people to do things that get attention for views, or because it's thrilling, or it builds your ego, or I'm not sure why. But ultimately it could be the demise of our rights and privileges. And so just think twice about what you're doing. Lastly, there have been YouTubers that have been relaying accounts of very severe medically significant tarantula bites. And I would like to point out that those are anecdotal references, meaning somebody told someone a story. It wasn't anything in an academic or a scientific setting that was documented. And so we have to be very, very careful about relaying those stories. Now, maybe those were accurate and maybe they're not. We don't know that. But be very careful about what you relay as medical fact when you don't actually have the evidence to support what you're saying. And especially you people who are growing massively on this platform, you have an additional responsibility to be very careful that what you're saying is representing fact and not just fiction, or furthermore, maybe your opinion. I definitely welcome questions about anything that I have said. Interestingly, the researcher who I most admire and respect won't allow me to repeat his name because he has been studying this animal for 56 years and will have nothing to do with the public, and is totally disgusted with the hobby because he basically said, don't bother putting that video out, because people don't care about the facts and they only are interested in sensationalism. But I believe that you guys are smart enough and interested enough in the truth that some of you guys are going to listen. I hope that I was very direct in my position. I made certain to only state facts in this video, and I hope that you guys don't take offense and that you can just take it for what it's worth. Everyone be safe out there. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you guys soon.
24/7, all I do is procrastinate, procrastinate, perfection. Perfection. 1, 2, 3, I don't know who else to be. 4, 5, 6, like they say I can't be fixed. 1, 2, 3, your attention's all I need. 4, 5, 6, don't let it slip. Some sort of an addiction. They all have a prediction. I think it's just some fiction. They